You've often heard of the 5-point turnaround characters, and everybody's practiced them, hopefully. This is a turnaround that was done for my Netflix show. And the main thing about turnarounds, there's a lot of common mistakes that are done. The most important one, of course, is lining everything up, is making sure that everything goes in a straight line as the character moves. This is the character design for the father in Duncanville. When I directed the pilot, I took the original character turn and went over it. These are my notes over top of the original character turn to make sure that it works properly. I'll show you a couple quick things that were done a little bit odd. For instance, there's the hair, which sort of ended up being these scoops upward from the gray streaks that were originally in the head. Of course, that's not how hair works. Hair flows down and grows low, so I adjusted the way that that hair would work into the ponytail. Also making sure that things are lined up so that the belly is always in the same position. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, let's say, cuffs on the shirt where I will see this thickness. Let me blow that up. I'll see this thickness on one turnaround, see this thickness on the next one, and then this thickness on the next one. And if you were to actually animate that character turning, then the volumes would be shifting the entire time. So it's very important to go through and make sure that you can draw a straight line across your character and make sure that the volumes are consistent. You also see that a lot, for example, with collars, where the collar will dip down a certain amount in one, but then not dip down evenly on the neck. So making sure your volumes are consistent is the most important thing you can do on a turnaround before you turn it in. Also remember that when you're doing a profile, for instance, let me blow this up here. When you're doing a profile, you're really creating a brand new type of drawing from the 3/4, brand new silhouette. And you really have to practice, do a lot of life drawing. Life drawing is the lifeblood of everything that an artist does, a visual artist. So do a lot of life drawing so that you can turn those volumes around in a consistent manner. Most important thing about turnarounds. The next thing is make every element of the character clearly visible. Let me show you. This was a character in one episode of mine, and you can see how this is a guy in a horse, old-time cartoon character horse costume. And you can see on the back of the yoke over here that the back yoke is very close to the neck. There's almost no breathing room in this space right over here. And so I moved them so that everything has a nice clear silhouette. Very important for characters' readability. You also see how the nostrils shrunk quite a bit as they move back in space. And for a 3/4 front character, you can see the eyes are not doing that, but for some reason the nostrils were. So I just wanted everything a little more even so that if this were the character's face, it does look like everything on the character is even. What also happens is you can see in the bow tie, right underneath this bow tie here, there's this little patch between the bow tie and the collar itself, this very little patch. And I move the bow tie up. Little slivers of color tend to look terrible when they're animated. And so we need everything to have enough space on the character so that there's not a little sliver of color, but enough color that we can tell what that shape belongs to. So we'll have enough color over here to tell that this and this are the same shape. And the character designer had also forgotten this little bit where the line went through, hadn't been clipped properly. A little mistake, don't include any mistakes in your portfolio. Also, you can see in the feet, this one was a little pointed and this one was rather round. And I just wanted to make sure both feet, both shoes were the exact same shape. These are little problems in a character design that tend to come back and haunt us as it moves through the production pipeline. So again, clear silhouettes, no tiny slivers of color, make each shape read clearly, and make sure that there is symmetry across the character. One shoe looks exactly like their other shoe. They are a pair after all. That eyes, nostrils, ears tend to be the same size or only slightly smaller if we're doing a more dimensionally turned character. All of these little things let me know when I see a character design that the designer knows the job and knows all the little quirks. No one on a production really has time to teach these little details. And so the more you're acquainted with them now and can avoid them, the better for everyone. And well, generally speaking, you always want to make it look good as a stylistic choice over turning in real life. Absolutely, clearly, you want to choose the better drawing. As long as volumes aren't being odd, as long as things aren't moving so that if a character were to turn slowly, you would see something change shape or proportion. Most characters, especially, are designed in that 3/4 front view, which means that a straight-on view or full profile tend to not always look as much like the character because they're designed generally 3/4 front. So it can be a little odd to see straight on or straight profile. And they're not often used in a show. But when they are used, they need to look good. They need to not distract and go, oh, that's odd. I mean, I guess that's right, but still looks a little odd. So we will often adapt the model during a turn to say, all right, there's many ways that we can do this, but let's do it in a way that looks the best. If a character, let's say, Chuck Jones always used to say, if you're doing life drawing and you're doing this great drawing and the character's sitting on a chair and then this leg is coming right at you. So here's your life drawing and your character is sitting in a chair and there's one leg coming right at you. And there's just no great way to draw that because it's an awkward position and it just looks weird in a drawing. And Chuck Jones would always say, if you end up in a life drawing position and you're like that, you draw the entire character except that leg that's looking right at you, and then you get up, you move down a couple chairs, and then you draw the leg from there so that now your drawing doesn't look weird. There's always going to be something that looks weird. It doesn't mean you have to draw it, that you have to draw it that way. In the same way that a character who has a nose in the middle from a straight head-on view, that character, they could have a nose that looks like that, or they could have a Pinocchio nose looks like that. You wouldn't know it from the front view. And so there is going to be a lot of times where you will need to fudge something artistically to make it the best drawing possible. I would say 9 times out of 10, you want to get a good drawing more than you get an absolute proper 3-dimensional turn.